Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Yakuza 5 extra hard difficulty video walkthrough. This is part 3 chapter 3 and it is called Closing In. We are finally playing as Akiyama and we are finally doing some combat. I adore this character in this game. I think he's wonderful because he's really good at fighting crowds. He is up there with Saejima in his ability to take down a full room of dudes. The only problem with him is the move I just did, where you can kick 3 people at the same time, is a little bit finicky on its detection, and every time the detection doesn't work, it can lead to big damage against your character. But the cool thing once again about Akiyama is he recovers very quickly, he can cancel out of almost every attack he does, and he has a whole host of great counter-attacks. He has the recoveries when you're injured, so if you get attacked and you quickly press the button, he can slide in like I did just then on that guy. He also has a Suedo Tiger Drop, which isn't as powerful, but it's useful because it gives you invulnerability frames. And we're going to be definitely partaking in a lot of combat here, just to show what he can do, and just a lot of the qualities of this character, which is essentially his dash cancelling. So this is the triple hit as well. Look at it, it's beautiful, man. That's 3 people down in the space of a second. They might not be dead, but they're out of the picture for a little while. And then he has that juggle, which is also really effective. And you can keep people on the ground with it as well if you hold the trigger so it doesn't trigger that crazy juggle. But dash cancelling with Akiyama is pretty simple. You'll notice that the detection on it is not the best. I think the reason for this is the way that the game system handles inputs. You can stack a lot of inputs on this game, so you have to press the button more than once, unless you're doing the attacks very slowly, to cancel them. And there'll be times where you press it once and it's not enough and you don't get the cancel. So my recommendation is, if you're going to input the move slowly, so very methodically press square, you'll only have to press X once if you're okay with doing, slightly slow combos. But if you're the person who wants to do the really fast kicks and get them out there real quick, you want to press X at least 3 times to get the dash. And what it will do is you can cancel any part of the combo, and because it's a dash, you can cancel it into a dashing attack, which is why it's incredibly powerful. Because you can put a little pressure on a guy, dash, and then kick him on the side of his block, break the block, and then continue to kick him. And Akiyama is unique in that he has almost endless combo, where he has a sustained kicking action, which is a little bit like Chun-Li's from Street Fighter. It isn't completely endless, but it kicks enough times to keep people in block for a very long time. Also, Akiyama has the ability to taunt when he grabs people, which is really useful. That was his Tiger Drop, by the way. You'll notice he does a kick, and he leans back when he does it. So the good thing is, it has a much smaller chance of trading than the other attacks do, which makes it very powerful. But its damage is nowhere near as good as Kazuma's, because Akiyama is a weak character. So I kind of got robbed just then. Normally when you bring people towards the edge of this bridge, he throws them off it, but I think because it has that kind of walkway on the other side, he didn't do it. But I think on this other side, he'll do the proper one, where he chucks them into the river. I'm not doing any of the cancels here. There it was, you see it? Just as I say it, I do it. So I did a bunch of standard hits, and then I cancelled into a sweeping kick. It's really good, and every character should have it. There's no excuse. I 100% understand why they don't, because it's to differentiate Akiyama, to give him his own uniqueness outside of being a kick-only character. But once you get used to the power of being able to dodge mid-combo, it's very difficult to go back to a character that can't do it. And when you upgrade those other characters, they can get an ability to dodge after an attack, but it takes heat. And I really wish you were able to have that kind of fidelity that Akiyama does have, because all the enemies do, and all the enemies cheat, because that's what they're doing. They don't need heat to do it, they can dodge mid-combo, they don't give a shit, they can dodge at any time, and we can't. And one of the things that frustrates me the most about any kind of action game is when the enemies have an ability that the player doesn't, and they can exploit it and affect the player. I find it to be very misleading and unfair. And in some games, it works perfectly, because it really enriches the experience. But in this game, where whiffing a throw leaves you in massive recovery, or doing a combo and missing a guy leaves you to being punished really heavily at times, it's one of the most frustrating aspects that exists, outside of things like the weapons that knock you down, and the grabs and the heat moves. They're almost instant and tricky to avoid. But that was me taunting when I grabbed him. Really, really useful, got my heat back up to max. This guy's very aggressive, which is useful. That's the endless kicking combo that he kicks a good 12 to 16 times, or something ridiculous. But something to think about. The champion ring on this game increases the aggressiveness. Oh, there was a locker key there. I don't pick up any of the locker keys in this area. I don't know why. It's just one of those things I never did. I think it's because as soon as I get the bloody bindings, I don't really care. But the champion ring increases enemies' aggression, and that might sound like a bad thing, and in some situations it probably is when there's a lot of people, but it can be really useful because there are times on this game where the enemies don't attack, and when an enemy isn't attacking, it's very hard to counter them. And if you're a counter-puncher like I can be for a lot of the combat, you can't really use it to your advantage. But the good news is when you put the payback ring on, every time an enemy gets close to you, they will attack, so it's really easy to predict what they're going to do. They're not going to stand there like a tit with their guard up, which is one of the worst aspects of some of the fights, where you're waiting for the enemy to attack and they don't, and then you push forward recklessly because you get impatient and then they attack you. So if you're having issue with passive enemies, the payback ring can be really useful. Not the payback ring, sorry, the champion's ring. Oh, I hope I said champion's ring. Payback ring, completely different thing. Useful, but completely different. Champion's ring, guys, sorry. Aggro's all the enemies. It's essentially the Gaze of Despair from Bayonetta. And I recommend it for bosses, I recommend it for small groups, I recommend it for a lot of encounters, because you can really use it to your advantage. But if you're not confident in your ability to evade or your ability to counter, you might find it to be a little bit too demanding, because it can get very crowded, and they will bully you because you'll get grabbed and then everybody will kick you while you're being grabbed, and it'll do a lot of damage because it all adds up. But if you can get around that, you can have a lot of success with the champion's ring. We're now Akiyama anyhow, so we're going to be pushing forward trying to solve the mystery of the murder that happened, and it's going to involve running around Sotenbori, following waypoints as per usual, and doing some miscellaneous tasks. The good news is a lot of them can be solved with our feet, so we can just kick the face off anybody who stands in our way. I believe we're about to meet the trainer coming up, and it's a mandatory introduction, so I don't think there's a way to avoid it. But the good news is it's a pretty fun sequence, and if you don't have any of the moves that you need, it's going to be really useful. So this is Daijiro Saigo, and he's introducing you to the Launch Strike, which is one of the new moves that Akiyama has in this game. When you're in heat, if you press triangle, it will kick people into the air, slow motion, and then from there you can combo with both square and triangle to do different moves. It's very powerful, but it drains your heat bar, so it's a choice between doing it and not doing it. If you hold the left trigger, you can use it to launch people and you do not do the follow-up, so you can do it to isolate them, you can do it to knock them down. You can also do it to keep them in a state of knockdown, which can be useful against enemies that are assholes. Certain enemies can recover through it, so it will not work every time, but it's good to know. But here is a group, we get heat, we go immediately into the triple kill, and then there should only be one person left, and then we'll finish him probably with standard techniques. So we've got some heat back, we do another taunt as he's quite scared of us. Another thing to notice too with Akiyama, he has probably the smallest life in the game, so it's quite useful to eat food to increase his HP value if you want to do that, but the food, for me personally, is 100% about augmenting the stats. The problem here is I didn't know what to eat to give me 2 strength and 2 focus, and I didn't have any of those digestive items from the doctor drugstore, so I couldn't kill myself and then eat again. So instead I just kind of got on with things. But I said in a video previous that I wish there was an item that killed you, took your life away, and there is. It's something like RX Digestrol or something, and you get it from the drugstore, and if you take that, it will put you down to 0 life if you take a few of them. And I'm going to be using that knowledge to do a series of boss fights on Yakuza 3 and 4. Because I want to cover those games, because I think they're great games, but a lot of the stuff that you're doing in that game is pretty standard Yakuza fare, and it's really the bosses and the fights that stand out as being anything really worth watching, unless you're a massive fan, and if you are, you've probably already played it or already done it. And then additionally, the audience for these videos is quite small. There seems to be a group of people that are really enjoying it, and then a lot of people that just are not interested at all. So for the sake of not completely polluting the channel with a ton of content that nobody cares about, I'm going to cover the stuff that's really worth watching. And I'm going to probably do hard mode, no damage bosses, because EX is too frustrating thanks to the checkpoints. If the checkpoints were normal, I would do it on EX hard mode every time, but they're not, so I'm going to make an executive decision to do it on the easier difficulty. But I'm going to have a lot of fun with it regardless. This is Ogita. You might recognise him as the dance instructor. He has a crazy capoeira Brazilian fight dancing style, and he has this really annoying grab where, you see that there? It trips you over, and when it trips you up, there's nothing you can do. It puts you in this stance of being tripped up, and it's not very fun. Yakuza is fantastic at making bosses have moves that aren't fun to fight, and this is a great example. This guy is incredibly evasive and incredibly counter heavy, so if you get yourself in an overextension, he will punish it, and there it was. That's the grab, and he repeats that grab all the time, and then he can bound you on the ground if he wants to, because getting up in this game can be a nightmare. But you'll notice, all I'm going to do is show this guy all the different heat actions and counter him when he does weird attacks. You can pull weapons out and start using weapon moves if you want to. There's a whole host of great ways of taking this boss down. You can be super aggressive with kicks if you want to, but he'll counter almost all of them. And he gets crazy iframes, he gets crazy armor, he gets a lot of priority, so it can be really difficult to compete with it. And I wanted to get a clean fight if I could, so I did it that way. And then we have the Mysterious Man, who is a boss directly after the last one without a checkpoint, so if this guy kills you, you'll have to do both bosses again. The good news is, he has a very predictable pattern, so you can exploit it and you can use Akiyama's kick, Tiger Drop, to get some quick damage on him, and then you can use your heat actions to counter him. I'm going to be pulling weapons out because I want to show off some different ones. It's the only way I really use weapons. I'm not a big fan of using them to strike, but I love using them to use heat actions. And you might wonder, well, why do you do that? Heat actions work on a very simple system. The first time you do a heat action against somebody, it will do major damage. The next time, it will do rapidly reduced damage. So doing the same heat actions does not benefit you at all. So if you have a weapon, every different weapon animation is a new heat action which will do great damage, and you can just cash in on your heat bar by having a bunch of different weapons on you at all times. And it is a great and easy way of getting rid of bosses who are too dangerous to do other strategies for. Or maybe you just like doing heat actions, or you like the weapons, and it really, really works. And as I'm showcasing here, I'm doing the kick on this guy to build heat, get some quick damage and getting out of there, and then I'm cashing in with the weapons, and it works wonders. I really like this particular enemy. I wish you could fight him in the arena. I wish you could fight all the bosses in the arena. I think that's what the arena should be for, but it's not, unfortunately. The next time we meet him though, he's going to have a lot of lackeys, and the fight's going to be a lot worse, just because he's aggressive, he's just as dangerous as he was here, and he has a ton of dudes with him who are going to get in the way and make things way more annoying than they should be. But that's the end of that dude. Fire extinguisher to the face. Thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.